So if we have, like, let's imagine the situation like, okay, we're going to the park, let's say, or as a family, and there are two kids and they both want different things, and one, let's say, is 5 and the other, let's say, 3, and both of them have very strong emotions. Like one wants to go for an ice cream and the other one wants to go somewhere, but you as the parents also have some plans, let's say. So it all goes in different directions, let's say. So how do you handle this very common situation, but could become very heated? And actually, instead of going to the park and enjoying yourselves, you might end up in complete disaster. So what would you recommend to focus on for a parent in this situation?
Well, if going to the park with your 5-year-old and your 3-year-old repeatedly ends in this kind of dilemma, the parent's overwhelmed, the children aren't able to negotiate and get their needs met, well, remember I said earlier, change the environment. So go and do something else. I mean, again, if it's summer, you can get a bowl of water and play water games in the garden, or wash the dolls' clothes. Or I used to get my children to, wash their own clothes in a bucket in the summer, because water's a great thing. So you change the environment, you do something where each can get their need met, even though you might think, I need to get out of the house. And again, parents' needs or the child's needs. And going to the park seems such a nice thing to do, but it can end in a disaster, especially when the child gets upset when it's time to come home. So the 3-year-old won't be able to get this, but the 5-year-old, again, you can say, I'd like to take you to the park, and can we come to an agreement that I will tell you when there's 5 minutes to go, and even though you want to stay for another 20 minutes or all day, I'm going to ask you to keep the agreement that after the 5 minutes is up, and I'll get my phone and I'll set it for 5 minutes, or you can help me set it for 5 minutes, and then you have to make this agreement with me, otherwise it'll be really hard for me to go. You don't say, oh, we won't be going. You explain, it's really hard for me to enjoy going to the park when I know it's always, so you're not too verbal, but you explain a little bit about how you're going to feel. And then the moment the 5 minutes is up, the moment they do that, you give them a high five and say, thank you so much, that helped me really enjoy this play at the park. Well, you can't expect anything like that from the 3-year-old. Yeah.
And with the 3-year-old, you just, deal with whatever is going to come.
Yeah, you can't let the 3-year-old spoil the 5-year-old's life by them. Everything has to be working around them. It might be that you're picking up the screaming 3-year-old, but you're saying to the 5-year-old, thanks for not adding to this. Thanks for doing the right thing. Thanks for coming when the time went off. I really appreciate that. And you're putting the 3-year-old in the car and this, whatever, in the pram. It's like, okay, so what if people are looking at you? You've made a connection to this 5-year-old, and when you get home, you might say to the 5-year-old, I now need to give your sister some time. Are you okay to, play with your train set? And you pick the sister out and you say, the little girl out, and you say, I think it's bath time. Let's get in a bath together. Or I think it's time for us to, do something that little girl likes or that little child likes. So again, this one-on-one time.
That's very interesting what you're saying. That sort of there are 2-3 kids, but they sort of, you look at them as a separate human being with their needs. You don't try to apply the common, rule to everybody, despite their age and preference. You all have to do this or that. So you sort of try to be really, focused on the specifics and personalized.
Whereas when you were little, Kate, sorry to interrupt, when you were little, when I was little, if the parents decided we're going to the park, we were all going to the park, and it was just, and that was it. Like, there wasn't this tailored paying attention to the child's needs and things like that. So I think we can do more of that, even though we didn't get it as children ourselves.
I hear somebody is arguing right now with us, saying but why we should do this? We were brought in this type of reality, and it was actually, it worked fine. I'm okay. I'm a good person. So why should it be now so complicated? Why should we adjust so much to the needs of our children? We will spoil them by this. So I hear this talk all the time. So what?
Yeah. So we're not giving in. We're working with the child on how to be in a family. So we can have conversations where we negotiate these things, so that we're not being this. A family is never a democracy. Everyone's down here, Like no. The parents are up here. They've got all this power, but they are applying the power in ways that are sensitive to each unique child's temperament, age, but when we were little, it was like, you kids, off you go. Yeah. But as I said earlier on, I don't know what's happened, but in terms of human evolution, we now want our freedom. As adults, we want our freedom to complain against the government, or complain against the school if they're not protecting a child from a bully, or if we hear that some additives being put in some baby formula or something like that, we want to be able to ramp that up and have the freedom to have our voice heard. This evolution of human dignity and consciousness and being able to not be afraid to say that's not right. Whereas when you were little, or when I was little, did we ever say to the parent who was the big boss parent, that's not right, no. And so we kind of we kind of go along with this poor education system, or terrible government decision to do X, Y, Z. So this next generation of children that are coming along, they naturally want more freedom. But it's our job to temper that and not let them have equal say in the home by any means. It's not a democracy. We want to make sure we hear the voice of the child, let them know we've listened, and work with them to get their needs met sometimes. You can't get their needs met all the time.